government seems firm to sell close to a 40% stake in IDBI Bank to LIC. It's a deal that could fetch the government close to 11,000 crore rupees, while of course it's faced with an uphill task of raising 80,000 crore rupees from divestment this fiscal. ET Now's exclusive news break of a possible LIC-IDBI deal has now stirred a hornet's nest, with economists as well as market watchers coming down heavily on the government over the proposal. But despite the criticism, the government, we hear, is keen to go ahead with this deal. Supriya Srinath, Ruchi Bhatia join in with the details. Supriya, over to you first. It's a deal that's being criticized. Questions are being asked over why LIC should throw good money, should essentially throw good money after bad. Why should they fund this bailout? What is the government thinking? What's the rationale?
Yes, it has fueled a big political controversy, and which is why the government is out in full force defending the move. We've been speaking to absolutely top sources in the Ministry of Finance and the Prime Minister's office, and they all believe that this should not be seen as a bailout. This should not be seen as an investment by LIC as it has done in the past. This is an acquisition by LIC. And what are the reasons? They're giving 3 or 4 big reasons. One, LIC always wanted a bank of its own. LIC had approached the government of India with its intention to either set up a bank or to acquire a public sector bank, because LIC, unlike other private insurers, does not have a bank of its own. I mean, you look at the others, an SBI, an ICICI, an HDFC Bank, they all have not one but 2 insurance arms. I mean, one for life and one for general, and they all have bank associations. It comes in handy. LIC handles the, about 29 crore customers all across the country. They give premia to LIC. They get lump sum payments out. A bank can be extremely beneficial there. So there can be no dispute about the fact that LIC needs a bank, and the government believes this is the bank that LIC could turn around and LIC could look at acquiring. So this is an acquisition and not an investment. Also, from a long-term point of view, LIC has a housing finance company, LIC Housing Finance, with a market capitalization of nearly 25,000 crore rupees. Now imagine a behemoth, imagine a giant with a retail banking proposition, with an insurance proposition, and this housing finance all coming together. This will create a huge retail portfolio, a company with a huge retail portfolio, and the government of India believes there is adequate synergies that LIC will have with IDBI Bank. So that's the difference that's coming in from the government's point of view. The one little thing that the government says is that the real estate assets of IDBI Bank far outweigh in value as far as the core banking operations are concerned. The strategic sale wouldn't have been possible because that would have not amounted to good value realization. On its part, LIC will wait and weigh what it wants to do with real estate. The government will get its proportionate share, because truth be told, an assistant manager in IDBI Bank has no business living in a 4-bedroom house in Cuff Parade. That's exactly what's happening right now. Why should IDBI have these 2-3 towers all across BKC and Worli and Cuff Parade? I mean, they need to get rid of those assets, and the government believes that LIC could be doing this. And I think the big differentiator and the big difference that the government is trying to say, that this is not a bailout as in the past. This is not an investment that we are forcing LIC to make. This is an acquisition that LIC will make. The bank will be for it to keep. It will perhaps be called the LIC-IDBI Bank going forward. LIC will also expand operations. They will open new retail branches, and which is where the synergies come in.
Okay, so not an investment, but an acquisition. Ruchi, what are the issues, however, that this deal could face? While Supriya, of course, highlighted the positives for LIC on how it would get a banking exposure, what are the issues?
LIC has been wanting to take over a bank or have a bank of its own for a very long time. In fact, Section 62H of the LIC Act categorically permits LIC for taking over any business that may add to LIC's business. And in this case, we understand that letters back and forth have happened between the government, LIC and IDBI Bank. So these talks are at a very advanced stage. The hurdle here is, of course, whether it makes commercial sense or not. We're given to understand that IDBI currently has over 1/4 of its loan portfolio as NPA, which is, of course, the big point of contention here. Why take up IDBI Bank? There are 2 reasons for it. Firstly, IDBI Bank is one of the banks that is not under the Bank Nationalization Act, so it is easier for LIC to pick up IDBI Bank. On the other hand, the turnaround plan that was put in place, that is showing results, whether it is on the provision coverage leverage ratio, on the operating profits, or various other factors as well. And we understand that there will be an annual general meeting that will take place in the month of August that will consider all these issues along with a long-term turnaround plan of 5 years, and then they will take a call whether it makes sense for LIC, for IDBI Bank to sell their stake to LIC, and the LIC board will also consider this matter once the cabinet gives a go-ahead to this deal.
All right, Ruchi as well as Supriya, thanks so much for joining us with that analysis on IDBI, LIC, and why it makes sense for LIC to perhaps buy into IDBI Bank. Meantime, ET now, of course, got a host of experts to discuss whether LIC can turn around IDBI Bank and indeed make it an asset. Listen
in. LIC has, as an insurance company, is a custodian of policyholders' money, and history has it that every time there is a crisis somewhere, LIC is asked to bail out the government. Now, Mr. Mathur clearly said that as a strategy, LIC should have a bank. Now, everywhere there are banks and insurance companies owned by promoters. Here, the promoter is the Government of India. It already owns the Life Insurance Corporation of India and more than a dozen banks. So why does LIC by itself need another bank? I think that is the main question I am raising. And the other thing, of course, why IDBI Bank, what price, all those things can be discussed till the cows come home. I think it's a bad allocation of policyholders' money. I think that is the basic question here of governance or financial prudence.
But this is not an investment being made by an LIC. It should not be seen as a bailout, but this is an acquisition that the insurer is making because it wants to be in the banking space. It wants a presence for strategic reasons. Now, instead of setting up a new bank, the government has proposed this takeover. Can there be a dispute over this?
Well, I mean, I would, as a previous speaker mentioned, there is, if government were to, government has many banks, it has got a LIC, so government is the owner of both. It's not very clear as to why government should make LIC buy the IDBI Bank, especially with its, value being so badly eroded. And if it is going to be only by way of government getting more revenue to balance its budget, well,
that of course was the big discussion on the India development debate. How long can LIC be the scapegoat for bailouts? And of course, whether it really, in the true sense, makes rationale for LIC to buy IDBI Bank. But more from the banking space, looks like there's no relief for ICICI Bank or Chanda Kochar. According to reports, the RBI has initiated a second probe into the affairs of the bank for allegedly delaying provisioning for stressed loans and so-called loan evergreening, among other wrongdoings, and this within days of receiving a fresh set of whistleblower complaints. The RBI started the second probe on the 25th of March, with the first one being initiated back in 2016 after another whistleblower alleged conflict of interest in CEO Chanda Kochar's dealings. RBI had then said that the allegation could not be conclusively established.